I was begging my manager for 3 extra hours to pay my electric bill when an old man in a beanie asked my name. 2 weeks later, the family who had not spoken to me in 2 years flew in, demanding I sell my apartment to save my sister. They did not know the old man in the beanie had just made me sign a document that changed everything. My name is Ivy Gonzalez. I am 27 years old, and my life is measured in the scent of ammonia and stray hair. I am the night shift cleaner for the flagship Velvet Vine Salon in Riverton, Ohio, by day. This place is a symphony of chrome, white leather, and the cheerful, high-pitched percussion of scissors. By night, it is my kingdom of chemical smells, buzzing fluorescent lights, and the ghosts of conversations I will never be part of. My routine is a liturgy of defense. I start at the shampoo bowls, scrubbing the dark, multicolored sludge of expensive dyes from the porcelain. I pull fist-sized clumps of wet, tangled hair from the drains, the strands clinging to my gloves like desperate seaweed. I move on to the styling stations, wiping away the sticky residue of hairspray and the dusting of fine, snipped ends that cover every horizontal surface. The air is thick with the smell of neutralizing chemicals and burnt keratin, a perfume I cannot wash off, one that follows me home to my tiny studio by the train tracks. I was supposed to be a nurse. I had finished 2 years, aced anatomy, and had a steady hand. But steady hands do not pay for tuition when your family's support system is a one-way street. My mother, Ruth, and my stepfather, Cal, were always focused on my older sister. Tessa, 32, was the artist, the dreamer, the one with 2 kids and a fledgling online business selling handmade. Well, handmade something. 1 month it was jewelry, the next it was artisanal soaps. My role was functional. I was the built-in babysitter, the free chauffeur, the emergency contact. When I got the email about my nursing internship, the one I had worked 60-hour weeks to qualify for, I remember telling them at Sunday dinner. Ruth just nodded, her eyes on Tessa's laptop screen, watching a live stream of her sister gluing shells onto a picture frame. Cal just asked me to pass the potatoes, so I dropped out. I told them it was to reevaluate, a clean corporate lie that spared them the inconvenience of feeling guilty. The truth was, I could not afford the books and the bus pass and the rent. Now, my nights are spent on my knees, scrubbing scuff marks from the Italian tile, while my days are spent trying to sleep as the freight trains rattle the single-pane glass of my window. My finances are not just tight, they are strangling me. The rent on my studio just went up by $75. My 20-year-old car, a sputtering hand-me-down from Cal, sounds like it is gargling rocks every time I start it. And then there are the medical bills from a flu I had 2 years ago. The one that turned into pneumonia because I could not afford to miss a shift. The collection agency calls my phone 3 times a day, which is why I am standing under the harsh track lighting of the reception desk at 11:54 p.m., my hands aching, my pride already packed away. Marla, the night manager, is counting her register. She is a woman who wields a sickly sweet tone like a weapon. Marla. My voice sounds thin, swallowed by the hum of the beverage cooler. She does not look up. Her long acrylic nails, a shade of velvet red, tap, tap, tap against the calculator. What is it? Ivy, I am closing out. I know. I was looking at the schedule for next week. I saw I'm only down for 20 hours. I take a breath, tasting the chemical fog in the air. I was wondering if I could pick up some extra time, maybe 3 more hours. Just this week. I can do a deep clean on the dryer vents, or recaulk the pedicure basins, whatever you need. My electric bill is due in 3 days. I am short by $50. 3 hours would cover it. Marla finally sighs, a long theatrical performance of exasperation, and looks up. Her smile is bright and perfectly artificial. Oh, Ivy, you know how it is? Everyone's struggling right now. Corporate is watching the budget like a hawk. I know. It is just, I really need it. I would not ask if... And besides, she cuts me off, her voice dropping that sweet veneer, becoming cold and flat. I was inspecting the stations tonight. The mirrors in Station 4 were a mess, streaked, and I found dust on the retail shelves. My stomach clenches. I had wiped those mirrors twice. I use a specific S pattern, just like the manual says, followed by a dry microfiber cloth. I had dusted the shelves before I even started the floors, but I know this game. I am going to have to dock you for this shift. Ivy, she says, her eyes flicking to the register tape. I cannot have the morning stylists walking into a mess. They complain to corporate, and it comes back on me. Dock me. That is not just the $50 I needed. That is my entire night's pay. That is the electric bill and the grocery money. Marla, please, I say, and I hate the pleading sound in my voice. I did wipe them. Maybe it was a stylist who stayed late. Are you arguing with me, Ivy? Her voice is sharp now, because I can find someone else who is happy to have 20 hours, or 10. I shut my mouth. The heat rises in my chest, a bitter, metallic taste of helplessness. I nod once, a quick, jerky motion. No, Marla, I understand. Good. She turns back to her money. I am dismissed. It is only then, as I turn to grab my bucket, that I realize we are not alone. In the far corner of the waiting area, half hidden by a large, wilting fiddle leaf fig, an old man is sitting in one of the leather armchairs. He is wearing a simple, dark gray beanie, pulled low, and an old, slightly frayed tweed overcoat. Despite it being mild outside, his hands are resting on his knees, still loosely holding a copy of a trade magazine. He looks like he could be anyone's grandfather, waiting patiently for a ride that is late. He should not be here. The doors were locked at 9. He must have been with the last client and somehow been forgotten. He is looking right at me. As my eyes meet his, I expect him to look away, embarrassed to have witnessed my humiliation. He does not. His gaze is steady, clear, and utterly, unnervingly calm. There is no pity in his eyes, no judgment, just a quiet, penetrating observation. It feels like he is not just seeing me, but seeing me the worn-out shoes, the bleach-stained pants, the tremor in my hand as I grip the mop handle. A sudden, slick voice breaks the silence. It is the radio, left on low behind the reception desk. "Big news for Riverton," the announcer's voice booms, obnoxiously cheerful. Sable Harbor Properties has just finalized its acquisition of the entire downtown corridor, including the Riverton Commercial Plaza. I know that name. Sable Harbor. They are the ones who just bought my apartment building. The reason my rent went up. That is right, Folks, the ad continues. A new era of prosperity is dawning, Sable. Harbor is committed to revitalizing our beautiful city, starting with... Marla does not even register it. She is busy locking the cash drawer. But I feel a cold dread settle over me. They own this building now, too. They own everything. I turn away from the old man's gaze, the shame burning hotter now. I shove my dirty rag into the gray plastic bucket. The water splashes, cold and foul. I do not bother finishing the last sweep. I have already been docked for it. My job requires me to be meticulous, to leave no trace. It is a form of self-preservation. Every night, before I clock out, I walk the entire salon and take notes on my phone. Station 2 footrest sticky. Dryer at Station 5 making a rattling noise. Hairline crack in tile by Basin 3. These notes are my only defense. When a $500 imported Japanese shear went missing last month, they tried to pin it on me. When a stylist's regular client complained that the chair felt unbalanced, Marla blamed my mopping. I am the invisible scapegoat. My family treats me the same way. I am the utility. 2 years ago, when I was still in school, Tessa called me at 1 a.m., hysterical. Her youngest had a fever, and she needed me to drive her to the emergency room. I had a final exam in anatomy at 8 a.m. I went, of course. I sat in the plastic waiting room chair for 4 hours, quizzing myself on the brachial plexus from note cards. While Tessa chain-drank coffee and complained about her husband, I drove them home at 5 a.m., took my exam on 2 hours of sleep, and got a B-. Tessa never said thank you. She just left a sticky sippy cup in my passenger seat. Now, standing in the salon that smells like failure, That B- feels like a different lifetime. That Ivy, the one who dreamed of scrubs and saving lives, is gone. This Ivy just dreams of a full night's sleep and a zero balance on her power bill. I grab my thin jacket from the staff room, the one with the broken zipper. I walk back to the front. Marla is gone, likely out the back entrance. The old man is still there. He has not moved. He is just watching. I go to the heavy, rattling metal security gate. I grab the handle, bend my knees, and pull. The metal screeches in protest as it comes down, section by section, locking the world of Velvet Vine away. The final thud as it hits the floor feels definitive. I twist the key in the floor lock. I do not look at the man in the chair. I do not want to see his pity, or his curiosity, or whatever that still, quiet look was. I push through the glass doors onto the dark, empty street. The air outside is cool, and it feels good on my hot face. I start the long walk to the bus stop, my car still sitting, useless, in my apartment parking lot. I do not know, as I turn the corner, that the man in the beanie is still sitting in the armchair. I do not know that he waits a full 5 minutes, staring at the metal gate I just closed, before he stands up, pulls a phone from his pocket, and makes a call. I do not know that he did not come in with a client. He used his own key. The bus ride home is a purgatory of humming fluorescent lights and the smell of damp wool. The few other passengers at 1 a.m. are ghosts, heads bowed, swaying with the lurch of the old engine. I sit near the back, my hands raw from the cleaning chemicals. I can still smell the Salon on my skin, a sharp, acidic tang of bleach layered over the cloying, sweet scent of synthetic coconut conditioner. I am not just tired, I am hollowed out. Marla docking my pay was not a reprimand. It was an execution. It was a statement that my labor, my time, my physical effort, is worthless, that I am so replaceable. She can erase my entire night's work over a perceived streak on a mirror I know was clean. I get off at my stop. The air is cold and bites at my face. My studio apartment is in a building that smells of boiled cabbage and old carpet, nestled so close to the freight tracks that the walls physically shudder 3 times a night. I climb the 4 flights of stairs, my legs aching, and let myself into the small, cold room. I do not turn on the main light. The glow from the street is enough. I sit on the edge of my bed, the mattress sinking under my weight, and the memories come. They always do when I am this tired, this defeated. It is 2 years ago. I am at Sunday dinner at my mother's house. I am vibrating with an energy I have not felt in months. I had been working double shifts at a diner while carrying a full load of nursing classes, and I had just gotten the email. "I got it," I said, my voice too loud in the quiet dining room. Cal was looking at his phone. Ruth was helping Tessa upload photos to her online store. "Got what, honey?" Ruth asked, not looking up. "The internship, the paid one, at Mercy, in the pediatric wing, the one I applied for 3 months ago. It starts in the fall." Tessa sighed, frustrated with her laptop. "Mom, the connection is slow again. Cal, did you reset the router?" "I got the internship," I said again, quieter. "That is nice, Ivy," Cal said, still scrolling. "Ruth, Tessa needs the router reset." My mother got up to unplug the modem. Tessa started complaining about upload speeds, my news, the thing that was going to change my life, the proof that all the all-night study sessions and missed meals were worth it. Just evaporated. It did not even register. It was noise. Tessa's live stream of her new hand-painted coasters. However, got 15 minutes of focused attention. That was the dynamic. It was always the dynamic. My life was built around obligation Saturdays, every weekend. It was the unspoken assumption that I would drive to their house. I would arrive at 9 a.m. Tessa, 32 and overwhelmed by her 2 children, would hand me a coffee and a list, laundry fold and put away, vacuum, Leo to guitar at 11, clean boys' bathroom. I would do it. I would cook lunch for my nephews, scrub toilets I did not use, and drive Leo to a music lesson I wished I could have afforded. No one ever said thank you. It was just what Ivy did. One Saturday, I was scrubbing a scorched pan in their sink. I had just failed a pharmacology quiz because I had spent the previous night driving Tessa to 3 different craft stores to find a specific shade of glitter paint. My mother was in the living room, reading a magazine. "Mom," I asked, my voice flat, exhausted. "Why am I always the one doing this?" Ruth looked up, genuinely perplexed, as if I had asked her why the sky was blue. "What do you mean?" "Ivy. This. The chores. The driving. Tessa is here. Why can't she do it?" Ruth set her magazine down and gave me that look, the one reserved for a difficult, slightly dim-witted child. "Ivy, be reasonable. Tessa has the children. It is a lot to manage. You are free. You do not have all those responsibilities." Free. I was working 2 jobs to pay for nursing school. I had clinical rotations that started at 6 a.m. I had not slept more than 5 hours in a row for a year. But because I did not have a husband or a baby, my time was considered empty. It was a void for them to fill. I stopped going to nursing school 6 months later. I could not afford the tuition and the books and the gas to be their unpaid nanny. The memory is so bitter it makes me shudder in my cold apartment. I pull out my phone. The family group chat, titled "The Squad" by Tessa, is blinking. A new picture of my nephew holding a half-eaten hot dog. 37 hearts and replies from aunts and cousins. My fingers open the text bar. I had a bad night. My manager docked my entire shift. I am not sure how I'm going to pay my electric bill. I stare at the words. I can already see the replies. Ruth. "Oh no, you need to budget better." Ivy. Tessa. "That sucks. Hey, can you watch The Boys next Friday?" Cal thumbs up emoji. I delete the message. I delete it all. There is no help there. There has never been. I open my banking app. The glowing green numbers mock me. $128.46. My electric bill is $175. The disconnect notice says payment is due in 3 days. A cold, sharp panic, familiar as my own heartbeat, seizes my chest. This is it. This is the edge. I close the app and open a job browser. My fingers fly. Typing immediate hire, night shift, janitorial, cash. The usual list pops up. Warehouse work, overnight stocking, then a new one, Apex Fitness. 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. shift, locker rooms and equipment sanitation. Starts tomorrow. 4 in the morning, it would mean leaving here at 3:30 a.m. I would work that shift, get back here by 7:30, sleep for maybe 3 hours, then get up, shower, and go to Velvet Vine for my 6 p.m. shift. It is a schedule that breaks people. I hit the apply button. It uses my saved resume. The phone feels heavy, slick in my hand. This is my life, a desperate scramble from one set of floors to the next. My phone buzzes. It is not an email from Apex Fitness. It is a text from an unknown number. "Are you Ivy Gonzalez?" My stomach tightens. It is a debt collector. They are getting clever. I do not respond. A minute passes. The phone buzzes again. "My name is G. Hale. I observed your interaction at Velvet Vine this evening. I have a matter of business I would like to discuss." I stop breathing. G. Hale. The old man in the beanie. My mind races. How did he get my number, my employee file? Observed your interaction. He saw me beg. He saw Marla cut me down. Is this a trap? Is he friends with Marla? Is this some bizarre, cruel joke? My fingers tremble as I type. "How did you get this number?" The reply is immediate. "That is not important. I am prepared to offer you a job. It requires discretion. Meet me tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., the Grindhouse Cafe, across the street from the Salon. I will pay for your time." The Grindhouse. That place charges $8 for a coffee. This cannot be real. It is a scam. Or he is a creep. Or it is some corporate sting operation. But I look at the $128 on my banking app. I think of the 4 a.m. gym shift, the smell of sweat and rubber mats. What do I have left to lose? My dignity that was docked tonight, along with my pay. I will be there. I type, "Good." The reply comes. I set the phone down. I do not take off my coat. I set my alarm for 7 a.m. I will go. I will listen. But first, I will go to the salon tomorrow morning and try to beg Marla for my shift back. I have to. If she says no, and if this Hale is a dead end, I will sell my electric hot plate. It is the only other thing I own. I failed to get my shift back. I went to the salon at 7:30 in the morning, right before the first stylists arrived, but Marla was already gone. The day manager, Chloe, a woman who always smelled faintly of lavender and judgment, gave me a blank stare when I mentioned the docked pay. Night shift issues are handled by the night shift manager. Ivy, she said, her eyes already on her scheduling screen. I cannot help you. I did not bother to argue. My attempt to beg had failed before it even began. At 8 a.m., I pushed open the door to the Grindhouse Cafe. The air hit me like a wall. It was thick with the smell of aggressively burnt, expensive coffee beans and artisanal pastries I could not afford to look at. A single cup of whatever they were brewing in there probably cost half a shift. He was already there, in a booth in the back, facing the door. It was the man from the salon, but he was transformed. The gray beanie was gone, revealing a full head of neat, thinning white hair. The frayed tweed overcoat was replaced by a simple, dark knit vest and a crisp, white button-down shirt. He no longer looked like a forgotten grandfather. He looked like a retired professor or a surgeon. The only thing that was the same were his eyes. They were sharp, analytical, and missed nothing. A cup of coffee, black, was sitting on the table opposite him. He gestured to it. Ms. Gonzalez, thank you for coming. His voice was dry, like old paper. I slid into the booth, my palms sweating. My worn jacket felt flimsy and cheap in the polished mahogany booth. You said you had a job. I do. He took a sip of his own coffee. My name is Gideon Hale. I am a retired investor. He paused, letting the title settle in the air. It meant nothing to me. I observed your interaction with Ms. Marla last night, he continued, his gaze unwavering. I felt the flush of shame creep back up my neck. You asked for 3 hours of work, he said, his voice quiet but carrying clearly across the table. You did not ask for a favor. You did not ask for a handout. You offered a transaction of labor for a specific sum. There is a difference. I just nodded, my throat tight. He leaned forward, a fractional movement. You have been cleaning that facility for 18 months, I said. If you owned it, he said, and his eyes seemed to bore right through me. If that salon, that building, was your money on the line, how would you run the operations? I blinked. I had expected a proposition, maybe a pity job cleaning his house. I had not expected an MBA question. From a sanitation standpoint, he clarified. I paused. The question was a lifeline. He was not asking me to complain about Marla. He was not asking me about my electric bill. He was asking a systems question. And the part of me that had aced anatomy, the part that memorized chemical interactions for nursing clinicals, the part I thought was dead and buried under bleach fumes and self-pity, suddenly sat up. The current system is inefficient, I said. My voice was stronger than I had expected. It is purely reactive. Marla docs pay for streaks on a mirror, but she does not supply the right tools. The microfiber cloths we use are old. They have been washed in water that is too hot. So the fibers have melted. They just push dirt around. They create the streaks. Gideon's gaze sharpened. He pulled a small, black, leather-bound notebook and a pen from his vest pocket. He did not look at me. He looked at his notebook. Go on. The dilution for the floor chemical is wrong, I continued, the words coming faster now. The manual specifies a 1:100 ratio. The night crew mixes it at least 1:30. Thinking stronger is better. It is not. It leaves a sticky residue that attracts more dust and dulls the tile finish. It makes the job harder the next night, and it costs the company more in wasted product. And your solution? He asked, his pen scratching quietly on the paper. A 3-part system, I said. 1 digital checklists, not paper, time-stamped, with mandatory photo uploads of key areas before and after. It creates accountability. It protects the cleaner from unfair blame, and it ensures the regional manager knows the work is actually done. 2. Chemical rotation. You cannot use the same broad-spectrum disinfectant every single night. You just breed resistance. You rotate, and you have weekly dilution checks. 3. Inventory control. We waste hundreds of dollars on expired products, or misused ones. A simple first-in, first-out system, tracked by a QR code on the supply closet, would cut that waste by 30%, minimum. I stopped, catching my breath. I had not spoken this much, this clearly, in years. Gideon finished his note. He looked up, and his eyes were not just sharp, they were calculating. That handles the cleaning. What about the customer? The morning stylists Marla is so concerned about. The stylists are frustrated because the night shift is demoralized, I said, leaning forward now. Marla cuts hours as a punishment, so people rush. They cut corners. They miss the hair traps in the drains. They do not wipe down the dryer filters. If the night shift had stable hours, fair compensation, and a standard they could actually meet, they would not cut corners. Happy cleaners mean clean stations. Clean stations mean happy stylists. Happy stylists mean retained customers. It is all one system. Gideon Hale stared at me for a full 10 seconds. The silence in the bustling cafe felt absolute. He closed his notebook. You are not a cleaner, Ms. Gonzalez. You are a logistician who has been misfiled. He slid a thin white plastic card across the table. It was a key card, heavy and unmarked. My car is outside. I have another appointment. He stood up, placing a crisp $20 bill on the table. For the coffee you did not drink, and for your time. I looked at the card. What is this? 7 p.m. tonight, he said, pulling on his own coat. The address is on the back, top floor. I want you to see something. And then he was gone. I spent the day in a numb fog. The $20 was a miracle. It bought me a hot meal and topped up my bus pass. But the electric bill was still due. The 4 a.m. gym shift was still looming. This whole thing felt like a fever dream, a bizarre interlude in a life of decline. But at 6:55 p.m., I was standing outside the address on the card. It was not the Salon building. It was not a house. It was a skyscraper of black glass and brushed steel that pierced the Riverton skyline. This was the financial district. This was where people who decided the fate of people like me had their offices. I walked into the lobby. The air was hushed, smelling of marble and money. A silent security guard in a perfect suit did not even ask my name. He just saw the card in my hand and gestured to the high-speed elevator bank. I slid the card into the reader. The only button that lit up was PH, penthouse. My stomach did a flip. The elevator ride was terrifyingly fast. A silent, carpeted box shooting me into the sky. My ears popped. The doors opened. They did not open into a lobby. They opened directly into a vast, dark, stunningly beautiful office. The floors were polished concrete. The walls were frosted glass. And etched into the glass in minimalist, silver letters was a single name, Sable Harbor Properties. My blood ran cold. The radio ad from last night, the company that had just bought my apartment building, the company that owned the Riverton Commercial Plaza, a young woman my age, with a severe black bob haircut and holding an iPad, looked up from a stark white desk. Ms. Gonzalez. Her voice was crisp. Mr. Hale is waiting for you. She led me through a hallway of glass into a massive conference room. One entire wall was a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the entire city. The lights of Riverton glittered below us like a carpet of fallen stars. The other walls were covered in glowing monitors, displaying schematics, financial projections, and floor plans. I saw the familiar logo of Velvet Vine everywhere. Gideon Hale was standing by the window. His hands clasped behind his back. No vest now. Just the white shirt. In this room, with this view. He looked nothing like a retired investor. He looked like he owned the view. This is what I actually do. Ivy, he said, his voice the same dry, quiet tone. He gestured to the wall of screens. I am the managing partner of Sable Harbor. We own the building your salon is in. We own the building you live in. I suddenly felt very small. Velvet Vine is a tenant, he said, turning to face me. Their corporate lease is up for renewal in 60 days. Their franchise model is failing. Their numbers are bad, but what I saw last night... He paused. That was not bad accounting. That was rot. I am considering acquiring the entire Velvet Vine chain, taking it over. But I will not buy a rotten company just to inherit the infestation. I need to know what is really happening on the ground. He stepped closer. The stylists will not talk to me. The regional managers, the Marlas, will lie to me. But you are invisible. They do not see you. They talk in front of you as if you are a piece of furniture. He was right. I had heard stylists complain about clients. Managers fudge numbers, and backroom deals over inventory. I want to hire you, he said, as a consultant. For 2 weeks, I want you to visit the other 7 branches in the Riverton cluster. You will be given a cleaning mandate for each one. I want you to watch, listen, document. I want to know about the waste. I want to know about the safety violations. I want to know about the real problems the staff face, the ones that never make it into a report. I stared at him. You want me to be a spy? I want you to be an auditor, he corrected, without blinking. But my job, I whispered. Marla, if she finds out I went to another branch, if anyone talks, I lose my job. The only job I have. Gideon nodded, as if he had been waiting for that. Yes, you would. He walked to the long black conference table and picked up a thick 9x12 manila envelope. He handed it to me. This is a retainer, he said. It is $5,000. It is more than you make in 2 months. My hands trembled. I did not open it. I could not. $5,000. That is for your risk, he said, and for your silence. But that is not the most important part. He tapped the envelope. Inside, behind the cashier's check, you will find a card. It is a temporary, private health insurance policy. It is in your name. It became active as of 9 a.m. this morning. It covers medical, dental, and vision, fully, no deductible. I tore the envelope open. The check was there. Behind it was a sleek, blue and white card. Ivy Gonzalez. I thought of the medical bills sitting on my counter. I thought of the tooth that had been aching for 6 months. Request. I heard you last night. Ivy. Gideon's voice was soft, but it cut through my haze. You were trying to sell 3 hours of your time for $50 because you were desperate. Marla knew it, and so she set your price at 0. He looked from the envelope in my hands to my face. Do not let other people set your price ever again. Will you do it? I thought of my nursing books, sitting in a box, gathering dust. I thought of the B- I got on my anatomy final. I thought of the cold, dark room and the $128 that was all I had in the world. I closed the envelope. I stood up straighter. Yes. Good, he said, a small, tight smile appearing for the first time. Alma will provide you with the schedule, a cover story, and a new phone. You start tonight, at the North Riverton branch. The new phone Alma gave me felt cold and heavy in my hand. It was a tool, not a lifeline. My old phone, with its cracked screen and dying battery, was tucked away. This new one was for work, for Gideon. My assignment for the first 2 weeks was simple. I was a floater cleaner, part of a new regional quality control initiative, a story Alma had fabricated and seeded into the Velvet Vine employee system. I had access to all 7 branches in the Riverton cluster. My job was to clean, watch, and document. I started at the North Riverton branch. It was newer than the flagship, all bright blonde wood and skylights, but the rot was there, just hidden better. In the back utility closet, I found the fire extinguisher. The tag on it was faded. Inspection date 18 months past due. I filmed it with the new phone, the timestamp clear in the corner of the video. In the main salon, by the shampoo basins, was an outlet. It was scorched black around the edges. When a stylist plugged in a high-velocity dryer, it spit a blue spark. "Oh, just jiggle it," another stylist said, not even looking up. "That one's always fussy." I recorded the spark, the casual conversation, the date on the wall calendar behind them. This was not just poor maintenance. This was negligence. In the color mixing room, I found 3 large, unlabeled spray bottles filled with clear liquid. I knew from my training they could be anything from diluted conditioner to caustic sanitation fluid. An open bottle of bleach sat next to a container of ammonia-based glass cleaner. If those two ever mixed, the fumes could put someone in the hospital. I photographed them, side by side. Branch 2, in the suburbs, was a problem of mold. Black spiderwebs of it bloomed behind the pedicure chairs, where water splashed and was never properly dried. Branch 3 was petty theft. The night manager there skimmed from the tip jar. Thinking no one counted, I watched her palm 2 $20 bills. But Branch 7, the one closest to the highway, was the worst. That was where I saw her. I was in the back, mopping the floor of the staff room, when I heard voices. It was almost midnight, long after the stylists had left. It was Marla. My Marla. She was not supposed to be here. This was not her branch. She was standing by the back door, her arms crossed, holding a key. A young woman, who looked terrified and was wearing earbuds, stood in front of her. "Look, it is simple," Marla said, her voice dripping with that same false sweetness. "The company pays for 60 hours a week for this branch. I give you 20 of those hours. You do the work. You get paid cash. $100 a week. I handle the paperwork." My blood ran cold. I pressed myself into the shadows of the hallway. I knew the payroll system. Velvet Vine was paying a contracted rate for those 60 hours, probably closer to $1,500 a week. Marla was hiring an outside, undocumented cleaner for a fraction of that, forcing her to do a fraction of the work and pocketing the difference. She was selling the company's hours. She was creating the dirty salons herself, then blaming the non-existent cleaners to corporate. The girl handed Marla folded cash. Marla handed her the key. I filmed the entire transaction through a crack in the door. My consultancy was not just at night. Alma had also booked me, under an assumed name, for services during the day. I was now a client. I walked into the flagship branch, my branch, at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. The waiting room was packed. 3 women were standing. They told me my appointment was at 1:30, one woman complained to the exasperated receptionist. "I am sorry, ma'am. Rico is just running behind." I sat and watched. My appointment was at 2:15. At 3 o'clock, I was finally called back. Rico, the lead stylist, looked exhausted. He was a small, quick man with ink up to his knuckles and the most precise scissor work in the city. "Sorry about the wait," he muttered, snapping his cape around me. "System is a nightmare." "It looked busy," I said, my voice neutral. He snorted, combing my wet hair with sharp, angry movements. "Busy, no. It is broken. Look out there." I glanced at the floor. He was right. Of the 12 stations, 5 were empty. "Here's the secret," he said, his voice dropping. "Our online booking system shows we are full. Why? Because the managers block out primetime slots. They keep them empty. Why would they do that? For their private clients, friends, family, cash-only clients who text them directly. They slot them in, bypass the main system, and probably pocket half the fee. But it wrecks the flow. It creates fake bottlenecks, so the real clients, like you, get pushed back, or they see no appointments online and just give up. We lose business, and I get yelled at for being behind on a schedule I do not even control." He leaned closer to my reflection in the mirror. "We make people beautiful in here, but the whole system is ugly. It is broken, and nobody ever comes to fix it." That night, I did not go to a salon. I went back to the Sable Harbor penthouse. Gideon and Alma were waiting. I laid it all out. The video of the fire extinguisher, the sparking outlet, the chemical dangers, the video of Marla selling the company's assets, and finally, Rico's story, backed by screenshots of the booking system's full calendar next to my photos of the empty chairs. Gideon listened, his face impassive. Alma just typed, her fingers flying over her laptop. Rico is right, I finished. The system is broken. You are not losing money because of bad stylists. You are losing money because of bad management. You are losing clients to cancellations and frustration. What do you propose? Gideon asked. I took a deep breath. A test. Give me one branch. Branch 4. It has the lowest revenue. Let me run my system. Not Marla's system. Mine. What is your system? 1. A transparent digital shift board. Everyone sees the hours. No more selling shifts. 2. A QR code reporting system. A stylist sees a sparking outlet or a broken chair. They scan the code. It sends an immediate, time-stamped ticket to maintenance and to management. No more "I told the manager." It creates a paper trail of accountability. 3. A tiered bonus for the cleaning crew, paid by corporate, not the manager. If they pass a 3-point photo inspection at the end of their shift, they get an extra $10. It is cheaper than replacing a client. Gideon looked at Alma. Alma looked at her screen. The revenue loss from cancellations at Branch 4 last month was $19,000, Alma said, her voice flat. Your proposals are cost-effective. Gideon nodded. You have 1 week. Alma will facilitate. For 1 week, I lived at Branch 4. Alma was my shadow. She arrived in the morning, silent in a sharp pantsuit, and watched. She watched the stylists use the new QR system. She watched the cleaning crew, skeptical at first, start taking pride in their end-of-night photos. She interviewed the clients in the waiting room. I trained the staff. I rewrote the chemical dilution charts. I threw out the unlabeled bottles. I called the fire inspector myself and had the extinguisher replaced, billing it to Alma. At the end of the week, Alma and I met Gideon. Alma spoke. Customer wait times at Branch 4 are down by an average of 30 minutes. Stylist complaints regarding equipment failure 0. Cancellations due to scheduling errors are down by 90%. As a result, weekly revenue for this single branch is up by 18%. 18% in 1 week. Gideon Hale looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than calculation in his eyes. It might have been respect. Put it in writing, he said. I spent the next 2 days in a borrowed office at Sable Harbor. I did not write a corporate report. I wrote a standard operating procedure, a rule book. It was short, clear, and based on everything I had just proven, it was about measurable results, not trying hard. It was about accountability, not fear. I called it the Ivy Charter. Alma read it. She made one addition, a quiet chair policy, she said. For clients who do not wish to engage in small talk, especially older clients, or those who are stressed, they can select it when booking. Gideon loved it. It was humane, simple, and cost nothing. On the last night of my 2-week audit, I walked out of the Sable Harbor building. The $5,000 check was in my bank account. My electric bill was paid. My old medical debts were gone. My aching tooth was scheduled for a fix. I was not cured. I was not rich, but I was not drowning. I stopped at an all-night diner, the kind I used to just walk past, and I bought myself an egg sandwich. I sat on a bench under a streetlight and ate it. It was the best thing I had ever tasted. It tasted like stability. My old phone, the one I kept in my pocket out of habit, buzzed. I pulled it out. The screen lit up. It was the group chat. The squad, a new message from Tessa, a picture of a for lease sign in a small, sad-looking strip mall. Her text glowed beneath it. It is official, taking the plunge and opening my first brick-and-mortar store. So excited, terrified, just need a little bridge capital to make the dream a reality. I stared at the message, bridge capital, a polite, Tessa-sized word for money, after 2 years of silence, after ignoring my internship, after letting me carry their burdens until I broke. They were back, and they wanted money. I didn't answer Tessa's message. I let it sit there, glowing in the dark. a monument to her audacity. For 2 days. The squad group chat was silent, waiting for my reply. Then my mother's text came. It was direct, a summons disguised as affection. The family misses you. Ivy, we are in Riverton. Come help out. Help out, the two most weaponized words in my family's vocabulary. They were a command, never an invitation. They meant, serve us. I hadn't replied. After 2 years of them treating me like I was invisible, they didn't deserve an RSVP. My audit was technically complete. I was now in a strange limbo, a regional operations trainee, according to the temporary title Alma had created for me. I was back at the flagship branch, my home base, but now I walked in the front door at 9 a.m., not the back door at 10 p.m. I wore the black blazer Alma had fronted me the money for, my new ID card clipped to the lapel. I was training the day managers on the Ivy Charter, the new QR code reporting system, the stylists, who once saw me as just the cleaner, now watched me with a mixture of confusion, resentment, and a new, tentative respect. I was finishing a meeting with Chloe, the day manager, showing her how the new shift bidding system worked. When I saw them, through the glass wall of the manager's office, I saw them enter the waiting area, all of them, my mother Ruth, my stepfather Cal, my sister Tessa, and her 2 sons, Leo and Mason. They were an island of noisy, anxious energy in the serene, white and chrome salon. Mason, the 6-year-old, immediately made a running slide across the polished floor. Leo, the 8-year-old, began methodically poking the leaves of the expensive fiddle-leaf fig. My blood went cold. This was not a visit. This was an ambush. I excused myself from the meeting. I walked out of the office, my heels making a sharp, deliberate click on the tile. Cal saw me first. He jumped up, his face forcing a pained, jovial grin. He was holding a flimsy pink pastry box. Ivy, there she is. We brought your favorites. He fumbled with the string and opened the box. Cherry danishes, bright red, chemical-smelling glaze. I have been allergic to artificial cherry since I was 12. Hello, Cal, I said. My mother rushed me, pulling me into a hug that felt like a set of chains. She squeezed me tight, her eyes darting over my shoulder, taking in the entire salon. She smelled of the same floral hairspray she had used for 20 years. Ivy, baby, she whispered, pulling back. You look good, different. Her eyes scanned my blazer, my ID card, the simple, clean-lined trousers. She was assessing my new armor. This job seems to agree with you. What are you doing here, Mom? My voice was flat. I was not playing this game. Mason, for God's sake, get off the floor, Tessa snapped. She looked haggard, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a way that looked painful. She herself did not move to stop him. My mother, still holding my arms, looked around the room, her eyes wide. Ivy, this place is just gorgeous. Look at this lighting. The owner must be rolling in it. Huh? Her words were light, but her eyes were sharp. She was casing the joint. She was assessing the value. I looked at my nephews, who were now trying to spin each other in a $500 leather styling chair. Leo, Mason, I said. My voice was not the fun Aunt Ivy voice they were used to. It was the voice I had used to tell a delivery driver he had shorted us on peroxide at Branch 4. It was calm, low, and absolute. They both froze. Sit on the white bench by the window, I instructed, pointing. Do not touch the chairs. Do not touch the plants. You can read these. I walked to the magazine rack, pulled out 2 glossy trade magazines filled with pictures of avant-garde haircuts, and handed one to each of them. Sit, now, without a word, stunned by the sheer lack of negotiation. They both went to the bench and sat down. Tessa stared at me, her mouth slightly open. Ruth just looked annoyed, as if I had ruined the first act of her play. So, I said, crossing my arms, you're in Riverton. It was a surprise, Cal chimed in, holding up the box of poison pastries again. Ivy, it's a nightmare, Tessa burst out, all pretense of a happy family reunion evaporating. It's the store, the one I posted about. It's all a total disaster. I did not respond. I did not say, "Oh no, what happened?" I just waited. My silence was a wall, and she was forced to throw herself against it. "The landlord is a complete shark," she said, her voice rising in pitch. "He rented me a space in this dead strip mall, and the wiring is all ancient, and the lease. Ivy, he tricked me. He totally tricked me. There are all these hidden fees, and penalties, and—" "You signed the lease, Tessa," I said. It was not a question. "I didn't have time to read all the fine print," she wailed, as if that were a legal defense. "I have 2 kids. Ivy, I was trying to get things done. And now he says I'm on the hook for the entire year's lease, plus penalties for trying to break it. He says I owe $42,000. The number hung in the air, grotesque and deliberate. My mother stepped forward, placing her hand on my arm. Her grip was not comforting. It was proprietary. "Ivy, honey," she said, her voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial whisper. "This is family. Tessa made a mistake, a silly mistake, but we are going to fix it. We already found the solution." I knew, in that instant, exactly what was coming. I could see the shape of the words before she even formed them. "You are going to sell your studio apartment," she said. I felt the blood drain from my face, not from shock, from a rage so cold and so pure it felt like peace. "Sell my apartment," I repeated. "Yes," Ruth said, nodding, as if this were the most obvious logical conclusion in the world. "You're doing so well now, this fancy job, this blazer." She flicked the lapel. "You've clearly got money, and your boyfriend must be well off. You can sell that tiny little studio. Give Tessa the money to pay off this awful man, and you can just move in with him, or find a better place. It's a win-win." My boyfriend, the immediate, instinctive assumption that any upward mobility I had must be funded by a man, the casual, effortless, complete dismissal of my home, the one place on earth I had carved out for myself, the one place they had never been invited. "I don't have a boyfriend, Mom," I said. My voice was dangerously quiet. "Well, whatever." She waved her hand, dismissing the detail. "You can get a new place, a better one." "But Tessa needs this. This is her future. It's for the boys." "It's my dream, Ivy," Tessa whispered, her eyes filling with tears. It was all so perfectly rehearsed. I took a slow breath. I could smell the sharp, clean scent of the color-mixing station. It focused me. "2 years ago," I said, my voice as sterile as the tools in the autoclave, "I sat at your dinner table, Mom. I told all of you I had just been accepted into the pediatric nursing internship at Mercy, the paid one." Ruth blinked, confused by the non sequitur. I think I remember that, honey." "Yes." "No, you don't," I said, my eyes never leaving hers. "Because you were helping Tessa pick a new font for her online store. Cal was reading sports scores on his phone. Nobody said congratulations. Nobody even looked up. It was the most important day of my life, and you didn't even hear it." "Ivy, that's not fair," Tessa snapped, her tears vanishing, replaced by indignation. "I was busy. I was trying to launch a business. I lost my scholarship," I continued, my gaze shifting to my sister. "Because I was spending 40 hours a week as your free nanny, your free chauffeur, and your free maid, all while you built your brand. I failed my pharmacology final because I had spent the entire night before driving you to 3 different craft stores to find a specific shade of glitter, and not once, not one single time in those 2 years, did any of you ask me how I was. I have kids. Ivy," Tessa shrieked. Her voice echoed in the high-ceilinged salon. Several clients in the styling chairs turned to look. "You don't know what that's like. The pressure you don't understand. You were always so free." There it was, the word that had been my prison. I was not free. I said. I was available, and I am not anymore. I am a person, Tessa, just like you, and my home is mine. I will not be selling my studio, I stated. Ivy, you are being the most selfish human being I have ever known. Ruth started, her voice rising to a hiss. After everything we did for you, you're going to let your sister and your nephews be thrown out on the street over a room. The glass door to the salon chimed. We all turned. Gideon Hale stood in the doorway. He was not the old man in the beanie. He was not the professor from the coffee shop. He was Gideon Hale, managing partner of Sable Harbor, wearing a perfectly tailored dark gray suit that probably cost more than my car. He was here for a surprise midday inspection. My family, blinded by their mission, saw only one thing: an old, wealthy-looking man, a customer, a potential witness to my betrayal. Ruth, ever the performer, immediately smoothed her expression into one of pained maternal grace. She gave him a bright, brittle smile. "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir," she said, her voice full of false charm. "We were just having a little family discussion. Are you here for an appointment?" Gideon's eyes, those sharp, analytical eyes, moved from Ruth to Tessa, to the two boys on the bench, and then, finally, to me. His expression was utterly neutral. "We were just telling my daughter," Ruth continued, bulldozing into the silence, "that she needs to sell her house to help her sister. It's the right thing to do. Don't you think family always comes first?" Gideon's gaze did not change, but I, who had spent 2 weeks studying him, saw it, a fractional tightening around his eyes, a stillness that went from calm to arctic. He had heard her. He had registered "sell her house." I looked at my family. They looked small, and loud, and garish under the expensive, calibrated lighting of my new world. Then I looked at the small, black dome in the corner of the ceiling, the high-definition security camera, the one I knew, from reading the building's operations manual, had crystal-clear audio recording for training and security purposes. A small, polite, brushed steel sign by the door, which my family had obviously ignored, clearly stated, "This area is under audio and video surveillance." They were not just yelling at me, they were performing, and they had just given a legal deposition. I stepped forward, physically placing myself between my family and my employer. "You need to leave," I said. Ruth's smile vanished. "What did you say to me?" "I said you need to leave. Now, this is my place of work. You were not invited. This conversation is over." "Ivy," Cal started, still holding the box of pastries like a shield. "I am not selling my home," I said, my voice final. It cut through the hum of the dryers. "We have nothing else to discuss. Goodbye." Tessa, seeing her $42,000 solution disappear, grabbed her children by the hands, her face white with a fury that was more potent than her tears. Ruth looked at me as if I had just stabbed her. "You will regret this, Ivy. You will be all alone, and you will regret this." She turned and stormed out, Cal and Tessa trailing in her wake. The door chimed closed, leaving a wake of stunned silence. I was alone in the waiting room with Gideon Hale. I smoothed the front of my blazer. I did not apologize. I did not explain. "Mr. Hale," I said. "Ms. Gonzalez," he replied, his voice perfectly even. He looked at the door they had just left through. "That was unfortunate." "Yes," I said. "It was." He looked back at me, his eyes analytical. "You seem to have it under control." "I do," he nodded. "Once?" "Good. Now, I was hoping you could walk me through the end-of-day cash-out procedure. Alma tells me you found an accounting error in the new software." He did not ask if I was okay. He did not offer sympathy. He did not pry. He went back to work. And in that moment, it was the most respectful, the most validating, the kindest thing anyone had ever done for me. The following morning, my phone chimed. Not the old, dying one, but the new, cold Sable Harbor phone. It was a calendar alert from Alma. Meeting G. Hale. 9:00 a.m. Sable Harbor HQ. 45th floor. I was back in the glass tower. But this time, I was not an auditor. I felt like I was being called to the principal's office. Alma met me at the elevator, her expression as unreadable as ever, and led me to the same panoramic conference room. Gideon was not looking at the view. He was at the head of the massive black table, flanked by two men in dark suits I did not recognize. They looked like lawyers. Piles of thick, spiral-bound documents were stacked neatly in front of them. "Ms. Gonzalez, sit," Gideon said. He did not introduce the lawyers. They just watched me. "You have done exemplary work," Gideon began, his voice formal. "Your audit of the 7 Riverton branches was thorough. Your test implementation at Branch 4 was, according to Alma's data, a complete success." He slid one of the thick documents across the table. It stopped perfectly in front of me. "This," he said, "is a draft letter of intent. Sable Harbor Properties is formally moving to acquire 100% of the Velvet Vine franchise, effective immediately." My heart hammered. This was real. The current owner, Victor Lane, is over-leveraged on 2 other ventures. He is desperate to sell. He just does not know how desperate we know he is. Your audit gave us the leverage. He tapped the document. "Page 28, Section 4, Personnel." I fumbled with the pages, my hands sticking to the high-gloss paper. I found the section. It was dense legal text, but one clause stood out. All non-managerial field personnel currently employed will be retained, pending a performance review. All regional and branch-level management will be subject to immediate termination and replacement. "Subject to replacement," I read aloud. "Marla, and the others like her," Gideon said. "The current leadership structure is a liability, which is why we are creating a new one." He slid a second, much thinner document across the table. This one was only 2 pages, held in a simple blue folder. "That is an employment contract," he said. "For you." I opened it. My name was at the top, Ivy Gonzalez. Below it, a title Regional Operations Manager, Riverton Cluster, and then the salary. I read the number twice. It was more than I had made in the last 3 years combined. It was enough to not just pay my bills, but to have a future. It was enough to pay off my old nursing school debts, every last cent, and still have enough left over to live. "This position," Gideon continued, as I stared at the numbers, "is contingent. 1. You will submit your final, comprehensive audit report by 11 a.m. today. 2. You will agree to an independent cross-examination of your findings. The men on my left will be conducting it. 3. You will present your findings in person, at a meeting at 2 p.m. today, to the current executive board of Velvet Vine." He leaned forward. "This is a hostile acquisition. Ivy, they will try to tear you apart. They will say you are just a cleaner. They will say your data is fabricated. They will try to discredit you to kill the deal. Your report is the bullet. You are the one who has to fire it." I looked at the lawyers. They looked hungry. Alma, who had been standing silently by the wall, stepped forward and placed a glass of water near my hand. She leaned in, just close enough for me to hear her whisper. "He almost never gives second chances, Ivy," she said. "He is giving you one. Do not waste it." I looked at Gideon, the old man in the beanie, the man who owned the skyline. "Why?" I asked him. My voice was a whisper. "You have Alma. You have your lawyers. You have all this data. Why me? Why do you trust me?" Gideon's expression did not soften, but his eyes held mine. "Because, Ms. Gonzalez," he said, his voice quiet but absolute. "On that first night in the Salon, when you were $50 short of keeping your lights on, you did not ask me for money. You did not ask anyone for a favor. You did not cry. You asked Marla for 3 more hours of work." He paused, letting the words land. "You did not ask for pity. You asked for a transaction. That is the kind of person I hire. I cannot teach that integrity. Everything else, I can..." He pushed a third envelope across the table, a simple, white business envelope. "Your ammunition," he said. I opened it. It was not a check. It was a series of screenshots and small, grainy photographs. My blood ran cold. It was my audit. It was the time-stamped video of Marla selling the night shift at Branch 7. It was the photo of the expired fire extinguisher. It was the screenshot of the fake safety inspection logs Alma had pulled from the server. Dated for a day I had been in the building and knew for a fact no inspection had occurred. "This is the plan," Gideon said, his voice turning to steel. "At 2 p.m., Victor Lane and his team will arrive. They believe this is a simple lease renegotiation. We will let them talk. Then, I will introduce my letter of intent to acquire. They will refuse. They will call it a lowball offer. And then, I will introduce you. You will present your report. You will show them, branch by branch, how their asset is rotting. You will show them the liability they are exposed to. You will show them Marla's fraud. You will show them the sparking outlets and the chemical hazards." One of the lawyers spoke for the first time. His voice was like gravel. "Your report, combined with these findings, will give us cause to report them to the State Labor Board, OSHA, and the Fire Marshal. The resulting fines would bankrupt them. They will know this. And then," Gideon finished, "they will sign. They will accept my offer. We will buy the company, and we will clean house, starting with Marla." It was a corporate execution, and I was the one holding the axe. I looked down at the contract, Regional Operations Manager. I thought of Rico, the stylist with the tired eyes, who said the system was broken and no one ever came to fix it. I picked up the pen, but I did not sign. "Mr. Hale," I said. Gideon raised an eyebrow. The lawyers tensed. "I accept the position," I said, "but I have a condition." The first lawyer almost smiled. "She is negotiating." "What is it?" Gideon asked. "The stylists," I said. "The cleaners. The receptionists. They are the ones who told me the truth. They are the ones who are actually working in that broken system. Rico, the night crew at Branch 4. If I sign this, I am management. I am one of them." "Your point." "My point is that this contract guarantees my salary. I want a guarantee for theirs. I want a new clause, a contractual guarantee of on-time payroll, automated and transparent. No more lost checks, no more manager adjustments. And I want a new system for tips. All tips, credit card or cash, must be paid out transparently at the end of every shift. No more managers skimming, no more holding tips for a week. It is their money." I looked him straight in the eye. "If we are going to fix this, we fix it for everyone, not just for me." The room was silent. One lawyer was looking at Gideon, waiting for the explosion. Gideon Hale looked at me for a long time. Then he smiled. It was a real smile this time. It was terrifying. "Alma," he said, not taking his eyes off me. "Yes, sir. Prepare an addendum to the acquisition agreement. We are adding a new binding clause. Call it the Ivy Charter. Codify her terms, on-time payroll, and immediate tip transparency. Make it non-negotiable." "Yes, sir," Alma said. She was already typing on her tablet. Gideon pushed the pen back toward me. "Sign your contract. Ms. Gonzalez, you have a meeting to prepare for." I signed my name. The ink was dark and final. The next 3 hours were a blur. The lawyers grilled me. They tore at every data point. "How do you know the chemical dilution was wrong?" "I tested it with a hydrometer I bought myself." "How do you know Marla was pocketing the cash?" "The video shows the cash transaction, and her logbook for that night shows full staff, no issues. She was falsifying the payroll report. The money never entered the system." By the end, they were nodding. I had not just brought them problems. I had brought them receipts. At 1:45 p.m., I was standing in the conference room. My final report loaded onto the main screen. I was wearing the black blazer, which suddenly felt like armor. My hands were steady. My voice, when I practiced my opening line, was clear. My old phone, The one I still kept in my bag. Buzzed. I fished it out. A text from my mother. Ruth, Ivy, I am landing at Riverton at 3 p.m. I am coming straight to your salon. Cal and Tessa are driving in separately. We are not leaving this time until we settle this. You need to do the right thing. Be ready to sign the papers to sell that house. The meeting with Victor Lane was at 2 p.m. My mother was arriving at 3 p.m. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 1:46 p.m. 2 battles, 2 ambushes, both demanding I sign away a future. One, a future I did not want. The other, the future I had just earned. I shut off the old phone and dropped it back in my bag. Let them come. At 2 p.m. The doors to the conference room opened. Victor Lane entered first. He was exactly what I expected: an expensive, tailored suit, a tan that looked artificial, and a cloud of cologne that arrived before he did. He was a man who had never scrubbed anything in his life. Behind him, looking pale and nervous, were 2 other regional managers and, to my absolute shock, Marla. She was wearing her best imitation silk blouse, her face plastered with a bright, defensive smile. When she saw me standing at the front of the room by the monitors, her smile faltered for a half-second. She looked confused, as if seeing a dog in a church. Then she dismissed me, turning her attention to Gideon. Gideon, good to see you, Victor boomed, shaking Gideon's hand while ignoring everyone else. Always a pleasure to talk leases with the man who owns the city. Alma, you look sharp. Lawyers, good afternoon. He finally gestured vaguely in my direction. Got a new assistant. I see. Good. Gideon did not correct him. He simply gestured to the chairs. Victor, thank you for coming. Please, sit. They all settled. Victor and his team, including Marla, sat on one side of the massive table. Gideon, his lawyers, and Alma sat on the other. I remained standing by the main monitor, my laptop connected, my hands steady on the keypad. We are here to discuss the lease renewal for the 7 Riverton properties, Gideon began, his voice flat. He presented the initial, standard terms for the lease: a moderate increase, new utility clauses. Victor waved his hand dismissively. Gideon, please. We have been partners for 10 years. That is a steep hike. You know the salon business is tough right now. We cannot possibly absorb a 20% jump. We are not here to discuss a 20% jump. Victor, Gideon said, steepling his fingers. We are here to discuss a 100% acquisition. The air in the room changed. Victor's smile froze. I am sorry. Sable Harbor is presenting a formal letter of intent to acquire the Velvet Vine chain in its entirety, effective at the close of business Friday, Gideon said. Victor stared. Then he burst out laughing. It was a loud, ugly sound. An acquisition, Gideon? What are you talking about? You are a real estate man. You do not know the first thing about beauty. The company is not for sale. Our data suggests it should be, Gideon said. Which brings us to the real purpose of this meeting. Over the last 4 weeks, we have conducted a deep operational audit of your Riverton cluster. We found irregularities. He turned his head to me. Ms. Ivy Gonzalez, our lead operational auditor, will now present her findings. Victor Lane turned his entire body to look at me. His brain seemed to be short-circuiting, trying to place my face. He looked at Marla, who was now chalk white. She whispered something in his ear. Victor's face went from confusion to a deep, mottled red of pure indignation. Her, he sputtered, pointing at me. You are joking. I know her. She is the night cleaner at the flagship. Marla, is this not your cleaner? Marla nodded, looking sick. Victor turned back to Gideon, his voice dripping with contempt. This is your game. You are bringing a floor cleaner in here to teach me how to run my business. This is an insult. Ms. Gonzalez, Gideon said, ignoring him completely. I hit the next key. The main screen lit up. Good afternoon, Mr. Lane, I said. My voice was amplified slightly by the room's microphone system. It sounded clear and cold. My audit began 4 weeks ago. Let us begin with customer retention. A graph appeared. Your 7 Riverton branches have a client cancellation rate of 19% within 24 hours of booking, I said. Our test branch, Branch 4, showed this was primarily due to inaccurate scheduling, leading to an average customer wait time of 45 minutes past their appointment. Victor started to speak, but I was already on the next slide. This inaccuracy is not a software glitch. It is manual. We found that branch-level management, including Ms. Marla here, regularly blocks out primetime slots to book private, cash-only clients, bypassing the company's official revenue stream. This creates scheduling chaos, customer frustration, and significant lost revenue. That is a lie, Marla shouted, half standing. She is a disgruntled employee. I fired her. I was not fired, Marla. I was promoted, I said, without looking at her. Next slide, safety and liability. The screen filled with my photographs. This is the main power outlet at the shampoo basin at Branch 1. As you can see, it is scorched. It has sparked twice in the last week, in full view of staff, who have been instructed to jiggle the cord. This is a fire hazard. This, I continued, clicking again, is the chemical mixing room at Branch 3. 3 unlabeled bottles of industrial fluid, a container of bleach stored directly next to ammonia, a clear violation of OSHA chemical handling regulations. And this, I clicked again, is the primary fire extinguisher at your flagship branch. The inspection tag is 18 months out of date. Victor Lane had stopped leaning back. He was now sitting ramrod straight, staring at the screen. Finally, I said, let us discuss payroll fraud. I clicked to the last slide. It showed a split screen, a blurred, dark video feed on one side, and a payroll spreadsheet on the other. Your records show that Branch 7 is fully staffed for 60 cleaning hours per week, billed at the standard corporate rate. This is the payroll log, signed by Ms. Marla, confirming full staff for the night of October 28th. Marla was shaking her head, whispering, no, no, no. And this, I said, is the security footage from the back door of Branch 7. On that same night, I hit play. The dark video sprang to life. We saw Marla, clear as day under the security light. We heard her voice, tinny but unmistakable, making the deal. You get paid cash, $100 a week. I handle the paperwork. We saw the younger girl hand her folded money. We saw Marla hand her the key. The room was dead silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the video. Victor Lane slowly turned his head and looked at Marla. His face was pure, cold fury. She looked like she was going to faint. Mr. Lane, Alma's voice cut through the silence. She stood up, holding a single-page report. In addition to Ms. Gonzalez's findings, our legal team commissioned an independent safety inspector to assess the properties. He confirmed that the extinguishers at branches 1, 3, and 7 are non-compliant. Had a fire marshal visited on any day in the last year, the resulting fines and mandatory closures would have cost your company an estimated $200,000 in this quarter alone. Victor's face went from red to a sickly gray. He was not just over-leveraged, he was exposed. Gideon slid the thick, bound letter of intent across the table. This is our offer. Victor, he said, his voice quiet. It is a fair valuation based on your real assets, which, as you can see, are in a state of extreme decay. You will also note the addendum, Section 5, which outlines Sable Harbor's right to pursue legal action against you and your management for willful misconduct and gross negligence, which we believe voids your lease entirely. Victor stared at the document as if it were a death warrant. However, Gideon continued, we are prepared to be partners. We do not just see the rot, we see the potential. He nodded to me. I clicked the remote. The screen changed from the damning video to a clean, white slide with a simple logo, the Ivy Charter. Mr. Lane, your problem is not your stylists, I said. It is your system. It is built on fear, inefficiency, and fraud. It is fixable. I presented my 12-point plan. The plan I had proven at Branch 4. 1. Transparent digital scheduling. 2. QR code maintenance reporting. 3. Automated. Immediate tip payout. 4. Standardized chemical handling. 5. Biweekly. Third-party safety audits. I went through all 12. They were simple. They were cheap to implement. They were built on accountability, not intimidation. When I finished, Victor was staring at the screen. He was a businessman. He could see the efficiency. He saw how the plan stopped the bleeding. "This," he said, his voice hoarse, "this is very good. This is low cost, high impact." The other 2 managers on his team, the ones who were not Marla, were nodding, vigorously. They liked the plan. It made their jobs easier and protected them. "Indeed," Gideon said. He stood up. "So, you have a choice. Victor, option A. You sign this offer today. We acquire Velvet Vine. We absorb the liability of your negligence. We implement Ms. Gonzalez's charter. You walk away with the sum on that page, and this entire incident disappears. You retire." He paused, picking up the white envelope containing my audit. "Or option B. You refuse. We walk away, and Alma, at my direction, forwards this entire file, the fraud, the OSHA violations, the falsified payroll, the fire code non-compliance to the State Labor Board, the fire marshal, the IRS, and the Riverton newspaper. I suspect they will enjoy the story. By tomorrow, your company and your reputation will be worth nothing." The silence stretched. Victor Lane looked at Marla, his eyes dead. He looked at me, a strange, baffled respect on his face. He looked at the signature line. He picked up Gideon's heavy, expensive pen. He signed. "Done," Gideon said. He gestured to Alma. "Alma, please escort Ms. Marla from the premises. Her employment with Velvet Vine and any of its associated entities is terminated, effective immediately, for cause." Marla looked at Victor. "Victor, you cannot." "Get out," Victor whispered, not even looking at her. Marla stood. Her face was a crumpled mask. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply grabbed her purse and walked out of the room, with Alma following behind her like a silent, implacable shadow. She was not just fired, she was erased. Gideon shook Victor's hand. "Our legal teams will be in touch to finalize the transition." Victor and his remaining managers filed out, looking like survivors of a plane crash. The room was suddenly quiet. It was just Gideon, his lawyers, and me. Gideon looked at me. "Congratulations, Ms. Gonzalez. You are now the regional operations manager of the Velvet Vine Riverton cluster." He checked his watch. "It is 3:15. My car is waiting. But you mentioned you have family business this afternoon." He gestured to the vast, empty, quiet office space outside the conference room. "Do you need the use of an office?" I took a deep breath. The first battle was over. The adrenaline was still thrumming. My mother was here. She was waiting, ready to pounce. I looked at Gideon, the man who had seen my value when I was on my knees. "I do," I said. "To finalize the new payroll schedule." I paused, picking up my bag. "And also, the living room." I did not go back to the studio by the tracks. Alma had arranged for a short-term corporate lease at the Sable Harbor residential tower, effective immediately. "Regional managers need a quiet, secure place to work. Ms. Gonzalez," she had said, handing me the key card. "You are now on call." The apartment was on the 12th floor. It was a one-bedroom, but it felt like a palace. It had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, brushed steel appliances that gleamed under recessed lighting, and most importantly, thick, silent walls. It was the quietest place I had ever been. I told my mother the new address. I knew they would come. This time, I was counting on it. When the buzzer rang at 4:30 p.m., I was ready. They spilled out of the elevator, a cloud of frantic, sour energy. My 2 nephews, Leo and Mason, immediately ran to the windows, pressing their sticky hands against the glass. Ruth, Cal, and Tessa stopped dead in the entryway. My mother's eyes went wide. She was not looking at me. She was looking at the quartz countertops. She was looking at the polished hardwood floors. She was calculating the rent. Cal just looked uncomfortable. His shoulders hunched. He was a man who belonged in a cluttered den, not a minimalist showpiece. Tessa's eyes were sharp, bright green with an envy that was so potent I could almost smell it. "Well," Ruth said, her voice strained. She ran a hand over the back of a leather armchair. "Just look at this. My daughter, the big shot." "Sit down." "Mom," I said. I had tea ready, hot green tea, in 4 ceramic mugs, no sugar. I placed them on the heavy glass coffee table. They did not waste time. The performance began at once. "Ivy, honey," Ruth started, forcing a warm, proud smile. "We are so glad you have landed on your feet. You are clearly doing so well. You're rich now. We see that. And we are just so proud of you." She leaned forward, her voice dropping, as if sharing a wonderful secret. "And that is why we know you will understand. We are family, and family has to help family, no matter what." On cue, Tessa slid a folded piece of paper across the table. It was wrinkled from her pocket. "I had a lawyer draft it," she said, trying to sound professional. Her voice was thin. "It is just a formal loan agreement, just so we are all on the same page." I picked it up. It was 2 pages. Printed from a home computer. It mentioned the sum, $42,000. It mentioned me, the lender. It mentioned her, the borrower. I read it slowly, my eyes scanning the text. "Tessa," I said, my voice quiet, "where is the payment schedule?" She blinked. "Oh, well, when the store gets profitable, we can work that out later." I kept reading. "Where is the interest rate?" Tessa laughed. A short, sharp, ugly sound. "Ivy, I am not paying you interest. You are my sister." "And where?" I said, my voice still perfectly level. "Is the collateral? What asset are you securing this loan against?" Ruth scoffed, the sound like a barking seal. "Collateral, we are your family. Our word is the collateral." I looked at them. I set the document down. I leaned to my side table and picked up the black permanent marker I had placed there an hour before. I uncapped it. "Ivy, what on earth are you doing?" Ruth demanded, her polite mask cracking. I spread the 2 pages on the glass. I drew a thick black circle around the missing payment clause. I drew another one around the blank interest rate section. I drew a large, bold X over the entire second page, which was filled with vague language about best efforts. "This," I said, sliding the papers back to her, "is not a legal agreement. This is a wish list. It is legally unenforceable, and it is insulting. You did not see a lawyer. You downloaded a template, and you deleted all the parts that held you responsible." Ruth's face tightened. "How dare you? After we drove all this way." Cal, who had been silent, leaned forward, trying to be the peacemaker. He spoke in a low, conspiratorial whisper, as if the women were not in the room. "Ivy, listen," he said, trying for the disappointed father tone that used to work on me. "Your mother. We might have to sell the house if this is not handled. Tessa's debt. It is tied up with ours. We co-signed on her business. The final, desperate volley. My home for theirs." I looked at Cal. I looked at Tessa, who was glaring at the black marker stains on her legal document. I looked at my mother, who was vibrating with a mixture of rage and entitlement. 2 years, I said. The room went still. "For 2 years, I continued, my voice flat and cold as the window pane. "I lived in that studio apartment by the train tracks, the one you want me to sell. For 2 years. I worked double shifts. I dropped out of nursing school. My bank account balance was less than $100 more times than I can count. I had pneumonia, by myself, because I could not afford to take a single day off to see a doctor, let alone pay for the medicine. I looked at each of them, one by one. In all of that time, in those 24 months, which one of you, I asked, which one of you called me? Which one of you sent a text message to ask me if I was okay? Who asked how I was living? The silence was absolute. It was thick, heavy, and it was the only answer I ever needed. We assumed you were fine, Tessa finally burst out. You are an adult. We are busy. You assumed I was useful, I corrected, my voice slicing through her excuse. And the moment I was not, I became invisible. Until you needed money. I stood up, walked to the leather briefcase Gideon had given me, and pulled out a single folder. I walked back and placed it on the coffee table. I am not selling my apartment, I said, and I'm not giving you $42,000. This, I tapped the folder, is my new employment contract. My title is Regional Operations Manager for Velvet Vine. I had, of course, blacked out the salary. This company, Sable Harbor Properties, has provided this apartment as part of my compensation. I am not rich, as you put it. I am, for the very first time in my life, stable, and I will not set myself on fire to keep you warm anymore. Ruth's face contorted. The mask of the proud mother melted away, revealing a face of pure, unfiltered betrayal. So that is it, she hissed, her voice low. After everything, after all the sacrifices we made for you, you choose money, you choose this job over your own family. I looked her dead in the eye. The words came out, clean and final. No, Mom, I said. I am choosing respect, because no one in this room has ever offered me that. You are here for a transaction, and you came to me with a terrible offer. As if on cue, the intercom buzzed. The sound was sharp, slicing the tension. Ruth, Tessa, and Cal all jumped. I pressed the talk button. Yes, Ms. Gonzalez? Gideon's dry, familiar voice came through the speaker. I was in the neighborhood. I brought that item we discussed, a small housewarming gift. Please come up, Mr. Hale, I said. I pressed the door button. Who is that? Ruth demanded, her eyes narrowing. Is that your rich boyfriend? He is a neighbor, I said. A moment later, a polite, firm knock. I opened the door. Gideon Hale stood there. He was perfectly cast for the role I had given him. He had removed his suit jacket and rolled up his white shirt sleeves. He was in his vest. He was holding a small, foil-wrapped plate that smelled distinctly of brownies. He looked exactly like a kind, wealthy, elderly neighbor. Ivy, my dear, he said, his voice warm. I hope I am not interrupting. Not at all. Mr. Hale, thank you for these. I took the plate. Please, come in. This is my family. My mother, Ruth, my stepfather, Cal, and my sister, Tessa. Gideon nodded graciously to each of them. Ruth, seeing an old man with an expensive watch and a kind demeanor, immediately put on her potential ally face. It is so wonderful to meet you, she gushed, stepping forward. Are you the landlord here? Or the building manager Ivy just moved in? It is a lovely building, a little sterile, perhaps, but lovely. She laughed, a fake, tinkling sound. These new corporate landlords, they just do not have a personal touch, do they? They charge a fortune for these little boxes. She leaned in, as if sharing a secret. Just cheapskate landlords, all of them, trying to squeeze every last penny out of hardworking people like my daughter. Gideon Hale, the managing partner of Sable Harbor Properties, the man who owned this building and the entire downtown corridor, just smiled. It was a thin, polite, devastating smile. He looked past Ruth, past Tessa, directly to me. His eyes held mine. He gave a fractional, almost imperceptible nod toward the large, dark television screen mounted on the wall. Well, he said to me, his voice perfectly pleasant. I know you were preparing that presentation for your family. If you want to show them, you go right ahead. I am sure they would find it very informative. I nodded. Once. I think I will. Gideon, thank you. I turned to the wall-mounted television. I picked up the sleek, simple remote from the coffee table. Ivy, what are you doing now? Ruth asked, her voice sharp with irritation. We are trying to have a serious family discussion. We are, I said. I pressed the on button. The 60-inch screen flickered to life. It was not on a cable channel. It was queued to a single video file from a secure server. I pressed play. The screen remained black for a moment, but the audio was crystal clear, captured by the high-fidelity security system at the Salon. My family, confused, watched the black screen, and then they heard themselves. Ruth's voice, bright and false, filled the room. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sir, we were just having a little family discussion. Tessa's voice, whining. I have kids. Ivy, you don't know what that's like? Cal's voice, hesitant. Ivy. And then, the centerpiece. Ruth's voice again, this time directed at Gideon, the man she thought was a random customer. We were just telling my daughter she needs to sell her house to help her sister. It's the right thing to do. Don't you think family always comes first? I let the audio play for another 10 seconds, the agonizing silence in the salon waiting room, before I pressed stop. The screen went black. The apartment was utterly, profoundly silent. Tessa was staring at the blank screen, her face white. Cal was rubbing his temples, his eyes shut tight. Ruth, however, looked baffled, then furious. You recorded us. The waiting area of a commercial property is a surveillance zone. Mom, I said, my voice flat. The sign is on the door. You were so busy ambushing me, you did not read it. You were performing for a stranger, trying to shame me into submission. You just told him, in your own words, that family always comes first is your justification for demanding I make myself homeless. Ruth stood up, her cheeks burning. I was worried. I was concerned for my family. You are twisting this. Ivy, you are making me sound like a monster. Am I? I reached into my bag and pulled out my old, cracked phone, the one they all recognized. 2 years ago, after I failed my pharmacology final, after I lost my scholarship because I was running your errands, I found the message thread. I held the phone up. This is a message I sent to the squad group chat. I wrote, Hi everyone, I know you are busy, but I have bad news. I lost the scholarship. I failed the final. I was just really tired from driving Tessa all week. I do not know what to do. I think I'm going to have to drop out. I turned the screen so they could all see it. And this, I said, scrolling down, is the reply. The screen was empty. No hearts, no thumbs up, no, oh no. Nothing, I said. Not from you, Mom, not from you, Tessa, not from you, Cal, not one single reply. You did not even like the message. You just let it sit there. You did not ask me if I was okay. You did not ask me if I was eating. You did not care. You were not worried about me then. You were just annoyed that your free help was complaining. I put the old phone away. You are not here because you are worried. You are here for a financial transaction. But your paperwork, I gusted to Tessa's crumpled, marker-stained document, is amateur. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a second folder. This one was crisp, new, and held a thick, professional document. This, I said, is what an actual assistance agreement looks like. I had Gideon's legal team draft it this morning. I placed it on the coffee table. This is my one and only counteroffer. It is a loan for $10,000, not $42,000, just enough to cover the penalty for breaking your lease, assuming you cannot negotiate it. I flipped a page. It is a 5-year loan, at a fixed 3% interest rate, which is well below market. The payments are due on the 1st of every month. I flipped again. It is secured against the remaining physical inventory of your failed handmade crafts business and against the title of Cal's truck. If you miss 3 payments, I take possession of both. Tessa looked horrified. And finally, I said, tapping the last page, Clause 7. Mandatory enrollment for both you, Tessa, and you, Mom, in a 3-month financial literacy course at Riverton Community College. You must provide certified proof of passing before the loan is dispersed. The course is non-negotiable. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Tessa finally found her voice. A class?" she stammered, her voice rising to a squeak. "You want me to go to school? You want to take Cal's truck? Ivy, that is humiliating." "No, Tessa," I said, my voice cutting through her hysterics. "Humiliating is begging for $42,000 with a fake legal document. This," I tapped the contract, "is respect. It is respect for my money. It is respect for the law. It is what responsibility looks like. I am giving you a tool to fix your life, not a bandage to cover your mistake." Cal stood up, his face pained. "Ivy, honey, please, this is a lot. Can you and I just talk outside in the hall? Just for a minute." Father to daughter. Ruth shot him a look that could kill. "No, Cal. We are not talking in the hall. We are settling this. We are her family, Ivy. Stop playing these ridiculous, cruel games. We do not need a class. We need the money. Just give us the money." "I am not playing a game," I said. I stood up, facing her. You are still playing the game where I am the free one, the one with no responsibilities, the one whose life is a resource for you to drain." I picked up the last folder from my briefcase. It was the thin one, the one with the Sable Harbor logo on it. "You seem to be confused about who I am now. You keep demanding solutions, but you are not listening." I handed the single sheet of paper inside to my mother. Ruth snatched it. She squinted, reading it. Her face slowly went slack. "Letter of confirmation," she read aloud, her voice trembling. "Ivy Gonzalez, confirmed as Regional Operations Manager." She looked up at me, her eyes wide with a dawning, terrible comprehension. "Regional Manager." She looked at the paper again. "Responsible for all restructuring and operations. Velvet Vine Chain." She looked at me, then at the apartment, then at Gideon, who was quietly observing, and then back at me. "You," she whispered, you are the boss of the place you used to clean." "I do not clean the floors anymore, Mom," I said. "I write the rules that the people who clean the floors follow. I write the budgets. I sign the paychecks. I am the person who just terminated Marla for fraud. That is who I am." Tessa's face crumpled. The anger, the indignation, it all collapsed. This was her last chance. The tears, this time, were real. "Ivy, please," she sobbed, genuine desperation in her voice. "Okay, you win. You are the boss. You are better than all of us. You have made your point, but please, if not for me, then for them." She pointed to her sons, who had stopped looking at the window and were now staring, wide-eyed and silent, at the adult drama unfolding. For Leo, for Mason, they do not deserve this. They do not deserve to lose their home because I was stupid. Please, Ivy, help my kids. This was the final card, the one they always played, the grandchildren. "I am going to help them," I said. Tessa's face filled with a sudden, desperate hope. "But I am not giving their mother money," I continued. "That would not help them. That would just teach them that consequences are for other people." I walked to my desk. "I am going to take the $42,000 you asked for, and I am going to put it into this." I held up a fresh proposal. "It is called the Ivy Charter Community Fund. It is a scholarship, administered by Sable Harbor, for young adults in Riverton. It is for trade skills. For kids who, like me, cannot afford a 4-year degree but want to become a mechanic, or a dental hygienist, or a coder. It is for people who need a certification. who need a real-world skill, who need what I needed, a way out that does not involve begging. It will include paid internships at the salons. Your sons, when they are old enough, can apply, just like everyone else. I looked at Tessa. It is safe. It is sustainable. It actually helps someone. It is not just plugging a hole in your sinking ship. Tessa just stared at me, speechless. But Ruth was not done. A fund, she hissed, her voice venomous. A charity. You are giving your family's money away to strangers. We do not need a scholarship in 10 years. We need cash. Now, Ivy, I am your mother. You will give me that money. The air in the room was vibrating. Cal looked defeated. Tessa looked broken. Ruth looked like a cornered animal. I did not look at her. I turned and looked at Gideon. He had been watching this entire exchange with the quiet, detached interest of a biologist observing a new species. He caught my eye. He knew, and I knew, that I had said everything I needed to say. He gave a slow, deliberate nod. It was time. Gideon, who was still playing the role of the kind, elderly neighbor, had been wearing the same gray beanie he had worn in the salon that first night. It was his costume. It was the cloak of invisibility that had allowed him to see us all for who we were. Now, he set his uneaten brownie on the table. He reached up, his movements slow and deliberate. He grasped the edge of the gray wool, and he pulled the beanie off. His thin white hair was perfectly, severely combed. The doddering, kind-eyed old man vanished. In his place was a hawk. Ruth, startled by the motion, just stared. What? What are you doing? Ms. Gonzalez has been very patient with you all, Gideon said. His voice was no longer the warm, neighborly tone. It was the same dry, cold, corporate voice I had heard in the boardroom, the voice that had ended Victor Lane's career. I, however, am not a patient man. You seem to be under several grave misconceptions. Mrs. Ruth? He stood to his full height, his gaze pinning her in place. My name is Gideon Hale. I am the managing partner of Sable Harbor Properties. I am the owner of this building, and as of 2 hours ago, I am the new principal investor and owner of the entire Velvet Vine Corporation. You are standing in my apartment, insulting my new regional operations manager, and attempting to blackmail her. The apartment was so quiet, I could hear the air circulating through the vents. Ruth, Tessa, and Cal were frozen. My mother's face was a mask of disbelief and horror. She and Tessa, in their arrogance, had not just been negotiating with their daughter. They had been insulting, dismissing, and trying to fleece the man who owned the entire company. Gideon Hale did not raise his voice. He did not need to. His authority filled the room, cold and heavy as steel. He stepped away from the door and walked to the coffee table, placing his hands on the back of the armchair. Ms. Gonzalez, in her capacity as operations manager, he said, had her legal team prepare 2 potential paths forward for you. She was, I believe, going to present them. Allow me. He picked up the folder I had prepared, the one with the $10,000 loan agreement. This is offer A, he said, dropping it onto the glass table. A structured, conditional loan of $10,000. It is secured against Mr. Cal's vehicle and Ms. Tessa's business inventory. It has a 3% interest rate and a strict, non-negotiable payment schedule. It also requires, as Ms. Gonzalez stated, that you and Ms. Tessa complete a financial literacy course before a single dollar is disbursed. He then picked up the folder detailing the Ivy Charter Community Fund. This is offer B, he said, placing it next to the first one. This is the Ivy Charter Fund. This is the scholarship. Under this plan, Ms. Gonzalez takes the full $42,000 you requested and invests it, in your family's name, as a community trust. It will fund internships and trade school certifications for low-income youth in Riverton. It will create jobs. It will build futures. Under this plan, you... He looked directly at Tessa and Ruth. Receive no cash. At all. Your family's legacy becomes charity, not a bailout. Ruth stared at the two folders. I could see the gears turning in her head. She was trapped. She stammered, pointing a shaking finger at the first folder. We'll take that one. The loan. We need the loan. She was trying to grab the cash, even now. No, you do not, Gideon said, his voice dropping. Ruth flinched. You are not listening, he continued, his voice dangerously soft. You just spent 10 minutes in my employee's home, demanding she sell the roof over her head to pay for your daughter's mistake. A roof that I provide. You do not get to make demands here. You do not get to take anything. You will stand there, and you will read the terms, and you will understand just how generous this family is being. Ruth shrank back. I stepped forward. This was my move. Mr. Hale is correct, I said. You are not listening, and you are still trying to solve the wrong problem. I looked at Tessa. You do not need $10,000. You do not even need $42,000. Tessa's tear-stained face looked up, confused. What? But the lease. The penalty. You were right about one thing, Tessa, I said. Your landlord is a shark, and you were a fool for signing a lease you did not read. I know, because I had Alma pull a copy of it. I walked to my briefcase and pulled out the last document, a copy of her lease, marked up in red ink. You signed a commercial lease with a cascading penalty clause, I said. That $42,000 is the full, accelerated rent for the entire year, plus fees. You are liable for all of it. However, I flipped to the third page, to the section Alma had highlighted. Your landlord, in his haste to trap you, used an outdated lease template. Section 3B, the landlord's guarantee of premises, he certified, in writing, that the property was fully compliant with all 2024 city fire and electrical codes. I let that hang in the air. I sent an inspector from Sable Harbor's compliance team there this morning, I said. The wiring is not just old, as you said, it is non-compliant. The emergency exits are improperly marked, and the sprinkler system has not been certified in 5 years. Your landlord is in breach. He is in violation. That lease, I tapped the paper, is voidable. Tessa just stared, her mouth open. You do not need $42,000, I said again. You need a very good lawyer to send one very expensive-looking letter to your landlord, pointing out these violations and offering to let him out of the lease, penalty-free, in exchange for your silence. Mr. Hale, I looked at Gideon, has an entire floor of lawyers who write letters like that in their sleep. Tessa looked from me to Gideon, the dawn of a new, terrifying hope on her face. So, Ruth said, her voice a cautious whisper, you will just sign the letter. Your boss will help us for free. I looked at my mother. The predator, cornered, was now looking for the easy way out. No, I said. Ruth's face fell. I am not giving you cash. I am not giving you a loan. I am offering you the services of a multi-billion-dollar corporation's legal team. That is not free. It has a price, a very specific price. I pulled a single sheet of paper from the folder. This, I said, is my price. I placed it on the table. It was not a loan agreement. It was a waiver. You, Tessa, will sign this document, stating that this legal assistance is a one-time final transaction. It states that you, and by extension, Ruth and Cal, will never, for the rest of your lives, ask me for money again. You will not ask for a loan. You will not ask for a gift. You will not ask me to co-sign. You will not ask me to help out. You are waiving all future financial claims on me. Forever. My life is mine. My money is mine. You sign this, and Gideon's lawyers make your debt disappear. You refuse, and I wish you the best of luck with your $42,000 problem. Tessa read the simple, ironclad paragraph. This was it. The checkmate. She could have her freedom from debt, but she had to give me mine. She looked at Ruth, she looked at Cal, she looked back at me, and her shoulders slumped. the last bit of fight gone. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, Ivy, you help me with the legal stuff. I will sign. I will sign it." I did not move. "We are not done." I reached into my pocket and pulled out one last piece of paper. It was a small, plain white sheet. At the top, I had written 3 words, an apology. Underneath were 3 blank lines and a space for a date and signature. "You sign the waiver," I said to Tessa, "and all 3 of you sign this." Ruth saw it, and her face went rigid. "An apology. This is a shakedown." "This," I said, my voice as hard as the glass table, "is respect. It is the part I told you I needed signed. I am giving you a $42,000 legal solution. You are giving me 1 page of honesty. It seems like a fair trade." I set the paper on the table. I set a pen on top of it. "You sign, or you walk out that door with nothing." Tessa did not hesitate. She grabbed the pen, her hand shaking, and signed the waiver. Then she signed the apology, tears streaming down her face. She did not write anything. She just signed her name. I looked at Cal. He picked up the pen. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a lifetime of weakness. "Ivy," he whispered, I am sorry. I truly am." On the first line, he wrote, "I am sorry I was always silent." He signed his name. I nodded. 1 down. I turned and looked at my mother, Ruth. She stood frozen, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Her face was pale. This was the one thing she could not stand to be wrong, to lose, to admit fault. "Mom," I said. It was not a plea. It was a final summons. She stared at the paper. She stared at Gideon, who watched her with no emotion at all. She stared at me, her eyes burning with a hatred that chilled me to the bone. Slowly, her hand shaking with a rage she could not control, she snatched the pen. She did not write a word. She just scribbled her name. Ruth. The signature was sharp, angry, and barely legible. But it was there. Gideon Hale stepped forward. He calmly collected the signed waiver and the signed apology. He folded them and slipped them into his inner vest pocket. "Done," he said. "Alma will contact you tomorrow morning. Ms. Tessa, to begin the proceedings against your landlord. Do not speak to him. Do not answer his calls. Speak only to Alma." He looked at Ruth and Cal. "Our business here is concluded. You should leave." It was a command. Cal and Tessa, looking hollowed out, gathered the 2 boys, who had been silent witnesses to the entire execution. They walked to the door. Ruth did not move for a moment. She just looked at me. "You chose this, Ivy," she whispered. "All this, over your family." "No, Mom," I said, standing straight. "You chose this for me, the day you decided I was free help." She turned and walked out of my apartment and out of my life. The door clicked shut. The silence was deafening. Gideon turned to me. "Well done, Ms. Gonzalez." He started for the door, then paused. "I expect your finalized implementation plan for the Ivy Charter by 9 a.m. Monday." "You will have it, sir," I said. He nodded. "Once. Good. From now on, you are in charge of your time. Make it count." He left. I was alone. I stood in the middle of my silent, beautiful apartment. The adrenaline began to fade, leaving behind a vast, quiet clarity. My new phone, the Sable Harbor phone, chimed on the counter. I picked it up. It was a text from Alma. "Congratulations. Manager Gonzalez, the Ivy Charter, including the new tip-out policy and the community fund, has just been approved by the board for chain-wide implementation. Welcome to your first day." I stood up, and for the first time, I felt my own height. I walked to the window. The sun was setting over Riverton, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. I looked at my reflection in the glass. I did not see the girl on her knees, scrubbing floors. I did not see the invisible daughter or the unpaid servant. I saw a woman who had just negotiated her own freedom. I closed the envelope on my past. placing it on the table in the quiet room. The price had been steep, but the one thing I was no longer selling, at any price, was my self-respect. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are all listening from, so please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories, like this video, and hit that hype button so this story can be heard by even more people.